Hi, everybody. It's Benita here with your June forecast. And what I'm using this time, it's a very cool, very complex way of working, not with the cards this time. I'm working with the Publishing Goblins Oracle Dice. Now, this was a Kickstarter that I participated in that I just found so interesting because it's pairing the concept of the tarot with runes. So the beauty of working with the dice is it's creating a certain a pattern, kind of a patterned response. Hi, Corinne. Thanks for tuning in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from the view of me to looking at the mat in front of me. And I think you're going to really like this because it's fascinating how this works. So I'm just going to bring the camera down and switch it out. And what you can see in front of me is this mat. Isn't this cool? Here's the book that comes with it, Publishing Goblins Oracle Dice. And the fellow who created this, he has a lot of interesting Kickstarters. Right now he has the Alleyman's Tarot, which is a massive deck that combines cards from a whole bunch of other decks. But he created this, and I find this so interesting. Now, I've made notes on what all the die mean depending on where they landed. So what you do is you hold them in your hand and then you drop them, and wherever they sit and however they work together tells you what the reading is. So it's really interesting. Each of these die was created by a different artist. So I just think that whole idea of other people coming together is really interesting. I also love the fact that the person who created this is non-binary, so it's a very inclusive set as well. So the first die we're going to look at here is the Fate die, and depending on where it lands in terms of what face comes up tells you what to do. So you always look at that one first because it's going to determine what you do with the other die. And what it says with that face is the die that is closest to it, you have to take it and put it in the center. Now, those of you who are into astrology are going to think this is very cool because this is Mercury. And what are we going through right now? A Mercury retrograde. So where the die falls also determines things that you want to know about. And so all of these core die that come together, there's a certain meaning to that. So for example, this die, those two figures close together means that this is not affecting just one person. In other words, the querent, the person that you're reading. In this case, it's for everybody that is watching, because if you're watching, that means this affects you. It's about affecting larger groups. So in other words, it's saying we're all in Mercury retrograde together. And this card, which is about fire, has to do with depletion of energy. And we know with Mercury retrograde, everything slows right down. So I'm going to go back through what I have here. And just so I make sure that I don't miss anything in terms of the notes that I took. The first die we look at is the Harmony card, which has to do with resolution coming through community coming together. And we see it under the material section, which means, right now the government is having to offer support. We're trying to support other businesses by, shopping where we can, eating out and supporting the restaurants. So it's about people sharing those different material goods together. And with Mercury, we know that it's about everything taking its time being sorted out. But what it also means in this particular dice set is all the different aspects are going to have to be dealt with at some point. So there's a major overall shift taking place. We're all affected by it. This is, involving everybody. And when we look at the next die is the Blood die. And it has to do with pain. But where it shows up in the spread is always very interesting because it's showing up near wheel. Wheel has to do with things that are pleasurable. So you might think, well, what kind of pain is pleasurable? And in this case, it's the pain of growth. It's showing up out of season as well. So it's all about the fact that for all of us, there's a lot of growth involved. And I personally think that one of the things that's happening right now, I think the planet is going through so much. And I believe that we as souls chose to be here at this time because we all want to become more conscious. So we're experiencing challenges with the planet. We're experiencing challenges with this virus. We're dealing with the deep grief of the residential school situation at a time when people are consciously working on themselves. It's not just about reacting. It's about the fact that we are coming together and waking up together with all of these challenges. Every single thing that's going on is spurring us on to look at ourselves in a deeper way than we normally would. And that's where the loss one also shows up in the material sector, because there's a lot of challenges going on economy-wise for a lot of people right now as well. It's changing our lives. It's causing us to rethink how we view money, work with it. It's changing how we operate in business. Sometimes it's changing how and where we live. So let's move over to the spirit, or, the spiritual development sector, and we see the gull. The gull is about taking time for self-reflection. So it's moving away from just the reactivity to, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to sit with myself and learn about myself. And the caterpillar shows up in this sector as well, because it's about the importance of proper sustenance and self-care. So if you think of it as, especially with Mercury retrograde, maybe things are quieter at work right now. It's an opportunity for you to take that time to go inward. And Gloria says she's at work right now. Awesome, Gloria. I will definitely post it so you can catch it later. Thanks for popping in. So when we look at the spirit situation here, it's saying, yes, there is less energy right now to be out in the world doing things. Maybe your world has gotten a little quieter. There is a reason for that. Take this time to work on self-care, on sustenance. How are you eating? What are you doing to take good care of your body, your consciousness, yourself? Because if you're going to do this deep spiritual work, you need the energy to do it. So we can live in fear of lack, which is awesome in terms of triggering that during Mercury retrograde, making us look at that pattern. But we can also work with that fear of lack by shifting it to, take a look around you right now. What is in your environment that you can appreciate? It might be your houseplants, your crystals, the food you've got in your fridge, the friends and the family that are there to support you, either near or far, or both, your garden. What is in your environment right now that if you stop striving, you actually have a chance to look at and enjoy? One of my little tools I like to use if I'm having some stress is I'll close my eyes and I will imagine that I'm an alien that's dropped into my body from outer space. And when I open my eyes, I literally look around my environment as though I'm seeing it for the first time. And I see so many things to appreciate. It's amazing how we filter out the beauty in our own environment because we're so busy thinking about something that's not happening in this moment. We often will envision a terrible future instead of appreciating what this moment has to offer. And don't forget that what you appreciate appreciates. So we tend to receive more of what we acknowledge and honor in our environment. So when we go to the next one, it has to do, the word for it is without. And it's a feeling of feeling out of control and dealing with blockages. And so we have, which one is that one here? I believe that is the one in the center there. And that's, again, it's that sense of the Mercury retrograde of feeling like we don't have everything we need. It really, when we don't have things moving smoothly, that's when we have an opportunity to do our most growth. I have never, in all the time I've been using this device, this setup, seen so many of the die end up in the core. And interesting that the Mercury, because of fate, gets put in there to say that, all of this depletion of energy, blockages for an entire group of people comes with the Mercury retrograde. So we slow down and we look at what's not working in our lives. We do the internal work because the universe is closing down the external, so we will go inward. Remember that the Chinese symbol for danger, it's the same symbol for opportunity. You can rail against this, or you can use this opportunity to do that inner work. Now, the next one we come to is the disrepair, and that is this green die right here. What have you not been maintaining? What are you neglecting? Is it health? Is it relationships? Is it certain projects you're supposed to be working on? So interesting, again, it shows up under spirit because this is all about nurturing yourself, doing the self-reflection, looking at what have you been ignoring, what have you not been paying attention to or giving time to that you really should. Guess what? Mercury retrograde, it's giving you that chance to take that time and recommit to the things you really need to tend to in your life. And yes, with less energy, sometimes we want to be super introspective. Just make sure we're not ignoring or neglecting those relationships that we do need to nurture. It doesn't mean you have to give somebody hours or days of your time. Sometimes it's just a quick message saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. I just want you to know I care, right? Let's keep those connections going. Now, wands is, and that's right here, that is about mind over matter. So if we're unfocused, it can lead to chaos. This is a need to fine-tune our drive, our energy, and our focus. No wonder it falls under mind. So with Mercury retrograde, it's very easy to let your fears get the best of you. This is a time when fear comes up to say, what tools do I have to face fear? Now, if you have read my blog recently about, stay positive, stay asleep, you'll know that I don't really believe in staying positive. I believe in companioning whatever feeling you're having. Your grief, your fear, your anger deserve just as much companionship as your positivity. So if you can sit with the feelings that are coming up and be curious about them, that's going to take you somewhere. If I'm angry, if I'm fearful, if I'm sad, what is it attached to? What part of me is deserving of my attention, my love, my compassion? Instead of, wow, I don't want to feel this. How do I get to that good feeling? Which is bypassing an opportunity to work with your patterns that are coming to consciousness. Is this easy work? No. That's why not everybody does it. That's why a lot of people lead lives of quiet desperation. If you're watching this today, it's because you have the capacity to do this work. You have the ability to sit with what's uncomfortable. Even if it's just for a few minutes at a time, the more you sit, the more practiced you get at being with your discomfort. Now, this one here, that's about excess. So with that discombobulation of the mind, we can either overthink things, or it can be about addiction. Maybe I'm going to spend too much money or have too much to eat or drink or work too hard to avoid what's going on in my mind. It's about an imbalance mentally. Now remember, this is not so much predictive as saying this is what's going on. So if you know what you're dealing with, you can be more effective in how you deal with it. Now sometimes the die don't stay on the mat. So you can look on that as either something that is farther off or something that doesn't have a lot of energy. What's interesting about it is it also shows up near the without on the mat, which can either be being without something or it's outside of your normal realm of things. So it's suggesting we are reacting to rather than reflecting on our circumstances. So it's just pointing out that this is a reactive time. You might not have a lot of energy to do things externally, but it's a reactive time internally. So you can see working with this mat, it's such an interesting thing to do. And if it's something, if it's a set that interests you, it is the Publishing Goblins Oracle Dice. It was a Kickstarter. I don't know if there's any sets still available, but if there are, Google him and I'll see if I can find the link as well and I'll put it on with the reading. It's an amazing set to have, and I find it fascinating because it's dealing with patterns, the way the die fall, where they fall on the mat, different elements, different seasons. This is a fascinating set, and I just like the tactile aspect of handling the die. They're wooden, they're beautifully rendered. They're so interesting to work with. So that is the June forecast, and what I would also like to do today is give people an opportunity to get mini readings. So I'm looking at, it's 12:40 right now. I'm going to have some lunch and I'm going to come back at 2 o'clock with my cards. So if you would like to pop back in this afternoon and have a chance to have me pull a card for you and give you some personal insight, I'd be absolutely delighted. So I will touch base with you all at 2 o'clock. Bye for now. Oh, you're very welcome, Dennis. Thanks for popping in. Thanks, everybody, for showing up today. I'll see you soon.